Foreign accent syndrome.
Ooh.
Now, as you know, guys, Indy actually finds these conditions, and then I go and research them. Right, this is not stuff that I've ever seen, and I'm very unlikely to see. By the very
So can I
least,
tell
we
you
are
why I
super
chose
raw.
this one?
Oh, go on. Yeah, what's the backstory? Go on.
So
What
there's a comedian I follow, Tom Segura. He's one of my favorite comedians. He did a bit on this, and he said there's actually a issue that people have where this is what it is, foreign accent syndrome. He does a bit on it. If you want to watch it on YouTube, please do. He's really good at it. And I just thought, I want to see Go and just tell me why this happens. So go ahead.
It's interesting. So when I was doing my research, a couple of comedians came up as well, which is funny actually. It's good to watch their take on it first before getting all medical on it. But not as rare as our other condition, the KL syndrome, the Klein.
Oh, is it more common?
Syndrome. It's more common than that. Essentially a condition where somebody develops an accent, but it sounds like to somebody who doesn't know that they're obviously putting on the accent. So like not anybody, most people have the ability to talk in a different accent. I could speak like this and people would think that I am speaking le français, le French.
Oh my days.
Right? Or it could be like, grazie, bene, grazie, prego. I could be a bit more Italian, or I could do the accent like this. So we have the ability to put on accents. But the key there is what I'm doing now is very voluntary.
Yeah.
Right. So this is an involuntary condition where, and I was reading a few case studies. For different people, it's happening in different ways, but there've been some sort of preceding illness. We'll go into the causes in a second, the things that have been identified, and then they either for days, weeks, months, or permanently have another accent. So there's a lady on Good Morning Britain, and she was from Staffordshire, from Dudley. So Dudley, had an accent like that her whole life, never been anywhere else, and now has an Italian accent. And she talks about the day where she walked around. But although it sounds very Italian, people are saying, "Are you from Poland? Are you from Russia? When did you come here? Are you on holiday?" Man.
So no, my name's Janice. I live in Dudley.
Yeah. And then there was this Australian lady who had a Chinese accent.
That's the one who had the bit with Tom Segura. Yeah.
The
Chinese accent bit is mad.
Yeah, and it sounds quite authentic. The thing with this condition is, although the accent sounds like, it's not like they get some superpower where they can actually speak the language. So they don't.
No.
That doesn't happen, right? That's important to know. Causes are really kind of mainly 2 or 3-fold. So you can have it from a young age, which is to do with kind of developmental issues, but it's not really common. It's not the one I found. But the other 2 main ones are neurological causes and psychiatric causes. So psychiatric causes can be things that cause what we call a conversion syndrome. A conversion syndrome is where you have a psychiatric mental problem or block or stress or stressor, which then manifests as a physical problems.
Oh God.
It's like IBS.
Oh, fuck off.
Just have to get that in there. But we do know that there are some conditions where we tend to group these orders what we call functional disorders. So people can come in and they can have weakness in their arm or leg, which mimics a stroke, right? But we will do all the scans, do all the tests, exclude all the kind of what we call the pathologies, appreciable disease, and then obviously you're doing a lot of testing involving psychologists and things. And sometimes we then end up saying, well, actually, this condition is functional. There is something that's happened to you that's triggered this for you to have some sort of stress, which is now manifesting as a physical symptom, but it has no pathology that we can find and treat.
Yeah.
No, it could be something that's like a undiscovered disease. That's obviously always a possibility. But when you see a lot of case studies that come out, and we see that some things are inconsistent. So, somebody saying they can't move their hand, but then they can move their hand when you're not looking. Then you're like, oh, okay, maybe this is that function. Like I had this young guy, like in his 20s, and he was on my ward. As in, patients change every day, so I hadn't seen this guy before. And basically, he said, I can't move my legs, like completely, I can't move my legs. And then, but we were pretty convinced it wasn't real. And then we did some digging, and we found he'd gone to like 8 different hospitals, and he always claimed the same thing. And we got all his scans and letters, and we were like, oh, okay, so you can walk, but you're saying you can't walk.
Why is that?
That's what he does. He just went from hospital to hospital. It's called malingering. You just you have some people have fictitious disease or disorders, like pseudo seizures. There are a lot of people we see who have fake seizures, so they'll start like shaking to mimic a seizure, but they're not having a real seizure.
But when you have a seizure, doesn't your like heart rate like shoot up or something?
Yeah, you can mimic those things. There's lots of things you can mimic. It's not
You
like
can
I'm saying
mimic your
now,
heart shooting up.
Yeah, like you start shaking, man. Like you physically make yourself shake. Your heart rate will go up.
Wow.
But I mean, I'm making it sound really simple. But there are times, man, where obviously you don't assume that somebody's faking. You still treat it as if they're not faking. But you'll do tests and things, and maybe then you'll do other tests to see if this is a real seizure or not a real seizure.
I want to learn how they learnt the accent.
They didn't. Well, they don't. We don't know. Yeah, and it's not.
But
like
they must know the accent to mimic it.
Yeah, exactly. They must have heard it somewhere. And so anyway, that's the psychiatric causes, whatever. So some sort of stressor. Then the neurological causes are things like strokes, brain tumor, multiple sclerosis, injury to the brain. So there's a part of your brain, the Broca's area, and the Broca's area is responsible for speech. So me speaking now is my Broca's area sending signals to what we call the motor cortex. The motor cortex sends nervous signals to my lips and my vocal cords and says make some sound.
Yeah.
But if your Broca's area is affected, so that can happen in a stroke. So remember, a stroke is when part of your brain dies. Yeah. Obviously, different parts of your brain have different functions. So depending on what area has been impacted, that's where you get loss of function. So it could be memory, it could be muscle power, it could be speech, it could be vision, it could be lots of different things. So the Broca's area, if you lose the function of that, you can become what we call dysphasic or aphasic. You lose the ability to speak. Or for example, you know what you want to say, but you have the inability to say it. So sometimes when we're testing this in people, what we'll do is you'll be like, okay, what is this? What is this? And they'll be like, it's you use it to write with, BIC as an example.
They're treating it like it's a game of taboo.
yeah, exactly. Right, but they can't say the word. So they have an aphasia, they're unable to, they can't formulate that word. There's another part of your brain called the Wernicke's area. The Wernicke's area is to do with comprehension. So there's some people that will speak, right, but you listen to what they're saying and it's just gibberish. It's not formulated sentences. And then you ask them, so you'll say, put your right index finger on your nose and then touch your ear. You give them a 2-step command and they just don't understand because the comprehension's impacted. So you have one area that makes the speech and you have another area which is responsible for comprehension, and then you have the nerves that connect the two, and that can also be damaged as well. So what they think is in these people that get foreign accent syndrome, areas of the brain, not just the Broca's area, but could also be the motor part which controls your vocal cords, and obviously that's how so when I do an accent, obviously I'm changing the way my speech is coming out.
Yeah.
There's that, and then there's your cerebellum, which is another part of your brain which regulates all these things. So it's multiple things. So something that affects the brain physically, some sort of damage or compression or disease, or a psychiatric disorder. But it's not like, again, all the rare things you're talking about is a diagnosis of exclusion. Now, when somebody has a stroke, the most common thing to get is slurring of speech.
Yeah.
Right? So the whole advert, we talk about fast and your mouth droops and all that kind of stuff, slurred speech. But this isn't that. This is saying that they actually speak fluently, but it's in a different accent.
Mad.
Very odd. Treatment is treat the underlying disorder.
What, through like CBT or something?
Yeah, well, as in if it's a stroke, treat the stroke. It may improve. If it's a brain tumour, remove the tumour.
No, but
if
with the treatment,
psychiatric
with the syndrome.
Yeah. But as in, if you treat the underlying cause, then the syndrome should go away, is the thinking. But if it's psychiatric, that might not be as obvious. So then, things like CBT, working with psychiatrists, psychologists, may be beneficial. But there are some people, the people I was looking at on YouTube, who have lived with it for just permanent now, constant. It's just who they are now. Yeah.
I shouldn't laugh, but I can't help it.
Yeah. Because it seems like they're putting it on, but obviously they're not putting it on.
What would be quality is if you could give that syndrome to racists, and it would be the race of the person they don't like, and they start talking like them from their native land as a punishment. That would be sick. Right, that's an episode of Black Mirror waiting to happen. I can see it.
Right. So you're going to design a virus now
That's it. Done.
And when the racists get locked up, I'm like, here's your saza, here's your punishment, right?
Here's your punishment.
Okay.
You're gonna talk like the native people,
I'm
like how they are.
Inject you with this. Yeah.
So you hate Indians, you're gonna talk like Uncle in India, with broken English, the head bubbles and everything.
There you go. That's justice Indy style.
But it doesn't give you the excuse to say the M word, right? I gotta make that clear. It doesn't give you the excuse to say that. Right?
I spoke to a lot of people on my side about this thing. It's just you that are very fixated on this thing. So what context and intention. Okay.
Yeah,
Don't make a song that big and be like, oh no, but you can't say it. Then just call the song something else. Two Guys in Paris. Just call it that, man.
I'll tell you, Two Guys in Paris.
Yeah, call it Jay and Kanye in Paris.
Two Guys in Paris. It doesn't sound the same, does it?
Well, no, but you're saying that because you know what the other thing is. But if you've never heard that
on the radio, it's just called Paris. That's what they call it. They call it Paris. I was like, cha. Okay.
Yeah.
Paris. Yeah. Okay.
Two Guys in Paris.
Two Guys in Paris.
Yeah.
It's like a cross between Two Girls in One Cup and One Night in Paris. Anyway, I'll leave it there.